got Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. And that means you got me, Jody McDonald. Sons of Mac. We're down to Mac, but we've added some girth. We've got the big man from the Eagles offensive line, Barrett Brooks. You hear him later in the day on Sports Takes. And always good when he can jump in with me here on Birds 365. How you been, Big B?
Good, man. I can't believe this week is flying by so fast. Finally gonna get an opportunity to check my birds out on a Saturday night, man. It would be Saturday night. They couldn't give us an earlier game. The latest game they could give us, they gave an 8 o'clock game. But hey, I can't complain. Let's go.
It could have been Sunday night. You could have had to wait
Right.
even longer. So it's not that bad Saturday. Give me the years again that you were an Eagle offensive lineman.
I played from 95 to 98 as an Eagles offensive lineman.
Okay, so 4 years. During those 4 years, who was, in your mind, the Eagles' biggest rival?
It had to be Dallas.
Okay.
You know, when I first stepped into the door, Dallas was the rival of rivals. You know, I can't see any. The hatred was there. I mean, I had fans tell me you can go 2-14 just as long as Dallas with those 2 wins. That's how passionate the fans were. They made it readily available to indoctrinate it in me since day one.
There are years, and I've learned this from, again, and I moved to town in 1990. So you and I started at close to the same time here in town, but certainly the rivalries predate us by plenty. And guys have told me, diehard Eagle fans who've been Eagle fans for 50, 60 years, that there have been times when the Giant rivalry kind of exceeded the Cowboy rivalry. Overall, it's Cowboys. Your 4-year on the field, which you get a much more of a hands-on grip of it than any of us who just watch from the sidelines, you say it was more Cowboys. How much disdain was there for the Giants when you were an Eagle?
It was always a dislike because I was always playing against the best players on each team. And it just so happened that Michael Strahan was the guy I was going against for the most part every single time we played against each other. So, you know, that was a rival for me. They say, you know, Run, you can attest to this. Strahan was that dude, you know what I'm saying? He was probably, he was top 10 as far as guys I played against at the defensive end position. So I would say Strahan was up there. You know, they had an all-star cast. Michael Barrow, Jesse Armstead, Jason Sehorn. I mean, they had some players, man. Keith Hamilton. Really, really good football team back then.
I apologize for this because every time you join me when Johnny Mac jumps out, I tap into your field of expertise. You become a really good football analyst, be it on NBC Sports Philly or here on JAKIB Sports YouTube channel.
Thank you.
But I still look at you as the offensive lineman of the Philadelphia Eagles. Sorry. And I don't get a chance to talk to guys who played the game like this very often. So I'm going to ask you about Lane Johnson. Coming back from an injury, at any point during your career, did you come back when you knew you weren't going to be 100%? You had to figure out what that percent was, working with the team and say, here's where I'm at, here's what I can do, here's what I can't do. You guys are going to have to make the call. I'm willing to go out and try, but I'm telling you, I'm not 100. I know what Barrett Brooks is at 100%. I'm not there, but I'm damn close. Did you ever have that experience during your career that you can kind of relate to what Lane Johnson is going through this week?
Well, I actually had the injury that Lane had. It wasn't during the time when I was an Eagle, but I had it for 2 years. You know, it wasn't like I just had it and then it went away. I had it for 2 years, and it was towards the end of my career. And it was cool because I was able to get through it a lot easier than he could, simply because I was just a backup. So I just go through practice, and if I had to go in a game, you know, I could fight through a game. It wasn't like I had to play every single snap. So that's the difference between me and Lane at this point as far as playing. I played with the injury, very painful injury. I got shot up and then, you know, went through the game and then, you know, went home, and it felt like hell the next day. But, you know, he's got to play every single snap. So you know, it's definitely different. As far as, you know, an injury that I went into percents as far as, you know, percentage of me playing, it had to have been my last game as a Philadelphia Eagle. We were bad too. We were 3-13. And I had actually broke my ankle, and I thought it was a sprain. They told me it was a high ankle sprain. So like I said, I shot up, got a shot, tore it all shot, and went out there and played. And it wasn't until I signed with the Detroit Lions, went into camp with the Detroit Lions, and kind of tweaked it again, that I went in and got x-rays, and they said, yeah, man, how come they didn't write on your report that you broke your ankle? I said, I didn't know I broke my ankle. So yeah, there's a piece of dead bone broken off in your ankle. Oof. And that's why you're experiencing the pain you had. So that kind of stuck me for the rest of my career. But I mean, it was one of those things that I, shot it up and went out there and hobbled and played the entire game with it.
So you're expecting Lane to do the same thing, get a shot. It's going to get him through the game. He won't be feeling the pain during the game, but then thereafter, man, it starts to come down on you pretty hard, but then you're going to get a shot again. And next week, if the Eagles beat the Giants this week.
Exactly. You can go through it. You can, pain endureth for a night. You know what I'm saying? In the morning, it'll be worse, but he'll be able to sit back, relax for the entire week. He won't practice the entire week. And then the next week, he'll go in and shoot it up again and play again. And next thing you know, he has 2 weeks until the Super Bowl.
And we talked about this before you joined the show. John mentioned one injury, because Lane has had his fair share of injuries. You play as long as Lane has, and as hard as Lane does, you're going to get hurt. John mentioned one injury where he thought Lane was actually less than he is at 100%. You could just barely know. Didn't give up any sacks, didn't give up any pressures, but the guy got to breathe on the quarterback. I don't even know how you would measure the fact that he wasn't as good as he usually is. I have zero doubts, damn close, 0.10001% doubt that Lane Johnson is going to be the usual right tackle that he is this week. Am I seeing this through eagle-colored glasses? You're a guy who went to war in those trenches. I never did. But just knowing Lane Johnson, I don't think there's any way that you can see a drop-off in his performance this week.
A 65 to 70% Lane Johnson is better than 100% Jack Driscoll.
Sorry, that's not mean. That's not meant to offend. That's mean.
No, not being meaner. Yeah, exactly.
Lane Johnson, but the facts are the facts.
Right. You're talking about a guy you can run the offense through. And with them playing against Dexter Lawrence and how he played in that last game against the Minnesota Vikings, you're going to need Lane to be the Lane Johnson that he's been. And, reason I say that, because this offense runs that the two tackles are basically on an island every single play. They don't worry about, sending protection their way, sending a chipper their way. The protection they covered the most is the interior three guys. So they'll make sure that, there'll never be an opportunity for Kelsey to be one-on-one against Dexter Lawrence. There's always going to be somebody there that's going to help him on that shade. So, that's the way they run their offense. That's the way they protect. They protect their guards and their center as opposed to protecting their tackles. They let the tackles go off on their own. They're on an island every single play. Talking about Revis Island, remember that with your Jets? Revis Island, same thing. It's Johnson Island and it's Malata Island. So those guys are on their own.
Right. I had a call this week on WIP saying, and when the Eagles give Lane Johnson help, I said the same thing you just said. Not happening. Right. They didn't even give Driscoll help. When he was filling in, they said, guess what? You're filling in for Lane Johnson. We're going to expect you next man up to do what Lane Johnson does. They didn't put extra tight end on his side. They didn't keep a back-ended chip to help him. No, that's not the way Stoutland University runs.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. Stoutland University is a crash course, and you're going to be alone, so get the job done.
And that's what how they're going to expect Lane Johnson to do it this week, and I think he's going to do it like Lane Johnson would.
Yep.
All right. And the other question, injury-wise, coming in, of course, with Jalen Hurts in his shoulder. He gets hurt in Chicago. Sits for 2 weeks. Unfortunately, the Eagles can't find a way to win one of those two games with Gardner Minshew running the show. So he has to come back for that week against the Giants. They do enough to win the game and secure the number 1 seed and the bye in the first round. How do you think Jalen, just his pure throwing, we all agree that the play calling was a little conservative. It was a little protective of Jalen Hurts as compared to what we saw the Eagles do for the first 14 games of the season. But just the plays that ended up with him throwing the football, how do you think he threw it with the shoulder issue he was dealing with?
I thought he threw fine. I thought he was sharp. His reads were there. He wasn't as polished. That just comes with him not playing for 2 weeks. But he still played.
You think there was actually rust on him?
was a little bit of rust on him. Yeah, there's some
Okay.
balls that are behind him. You know, you could tell the timing wasn't all the way there like I'm used to seeing him throw. But you could definitely see he knew where the ball was supposed to go and how to get it there. And that's the biggest thing. He probably needed that game because I really didn't want him going into the playoffs not having thrown a ball in 2.5, 3 weeks. So this actually worked out pretty well because now he's got that rust off. He's played with these guys. Practicing with them. He's been cleared. This will be a great opportunity just to show everybody why he was an MVP candidate. Because I think he's just gonna pick it up like he never, like he wrote, like riding a bike. He's just gonna pick it up and start riding.
All right,
they're not gonna change the game plan though. They're not gonna change. He's going all, balls to the wall. He's going all out. I think they're gonna run. I know they're gonna run the RPOs, read options, and he's gonna use his intangibles. He's gonna use his legs. He'll be ready to go.
And I surely hope that's the case. I don't know that's the case. I believe it's the case, but I'm not positive it's the case. So we're going to have to wait and see on Saturday. Again, referring back to the game that was less than 2 weeks ago against the Giants, where the Giants used second and third teamers on both offense and defense, the Eagles did score 6 times, 5 of which were field goals. That's not good. When you've got the ball in the other team's end of the field 6 times, you want to walk away with more than 22 points. 1 touchdown, 5 field goals. Why do you think the offense stalled out the way that it did in Giant territory?
Because they didn't run the same game plan they were running a regular game. This was just, all right, let's just get through this. Let's get through this healthy, number one. Number two, we're not really worried about showing them anything that could help them out if we play them later on. And I think they were conservative like that because of that. I mean, they kind of saw that they might be playing against this Giants team again. So why give them the whole playbook, in a game that means nothing? So I mean, that's a real evaluation of why they played the game they played. I mean, when you're in the red zone, that's where Jalen Hurts really, takes his cape out, ties his cape up, and he becomes that super player because he can make you wrong any way you look at it. When you're a defensive coordinator and you say, all right, we're going to stop the run. And what does he do? He throws it to his 2 outside 1,000-yard receivers. All right, we're going to stop the pass now. Now he can hand it off to a light box to, either he runs it or he allow Miles Sanders to run it. Oh, we're going to stop the middle of the field. We're going to stop the outside, open up the middle of the field, see if you can beat us there. Well, he's got, Dallas Goedert in there. He can throw to the backs. He's one of those guys that's an X factor that he can make you wrong in every decision you make. He can use your strengths against you. He did it with Micah Parsons. He can do it with Kayvon Thibodeau or Dexter Lawrence. He'll be able to figure out how he can take advantage of the defense and where they're trying to beat him at. If you blitz him, all right, we're gonna blitz him. Hurry that clock up. He can beat you with the blitz. He's got built-in slant plays, comeback plays in which the receivers work well with him. They'll be open. He'll get the ball to him. He is just master at really running this offense to how they customize it to him.
I asked my listening audience on WIP Tuesday night to give me a game changer for the Eagles, above and beyond quarterback. You always start with the quarterback. It's the QB, and then who else?
Exactly.
So my who else was Dallas Goedert. And I was leaning in that direction before the Giants ever played last week. And I know, by the way, they played and gave up T.J. Hockenson 129 yards. So they showed that they'll respect your star wide receiver. In Minnesota, that's 1. Jefferson. In Philadelphia, we got more 2. Sorry, Adam Thielen, you're a nice player. You're not Devonta Smith in my eyes. But so it'll be even more difficult for the Giants. But do you think they try and run a similar defense? And if that's the case, can Goedert go off this Saturday?
This is a game that's custom made for Goedert because he's so good. You can't really focus on him because he's such a good run blocker. So he's in on run plays even when on regular running down situations. So he's the best run blocker we have as far as tight ends. So he'll be in the game at all times. How do you pick and choose and differentiate when he's getting the ball and when he's not getting the ball? So yes, he will be a heavy target because they're going to try to go out there. And I mean, they got a Dory Jackson, who's a really, really good player. He's their shutdown corner. But who is he going to say? You going to go with Smitty? You going to try to stop Smitty? Or are you going to try to stop Brown? That's hard to choose from when you're a defensive coordinator. Wink Martindale loves to send the blitz, but can he blitz Jalen Hurts? I mean, what if they get out of their rush lanes? He can run down the field. He'll make a play with his legs. Hurts will make a play with his legs. So it's really goes down to, can Fabian Moreau, who had a tough game against them last time they played, can he play well enough to on Smitty to shut him down? Can Darnay Holmes be a guy that can cover in the slot when you have AJ Brown there running a slant? There lies your complex decision making when you're a Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator. Who do you want to stop? Who's the most impactful player? Who can win this game for him? That's three guys that can do it for him. Dallas Goedert being the guy who can put the nail in the coffin, because he's so athletic, and you can't just put a safety on him because he can out-muscle them, and you can't put a linebacker on him because he's faster than a linebacker. So he's definitely an X factor in his offense.
I think what Barrett Brooks is saying, pick your poison, Wink Martindale.
Absolutely.
You got to select one of them. He is Barrett Brooks. I'm Jody McDonald. We are the Birds 365 guys today. Double B in for Johnny Mac. Had to get over to Eagles Press availability. We got a good guest coming up for you next, because he's got an interesting perspective on this Saturday's game. Ralph Vecchiano covered the New York Giants for years for New York newspapers, became the NFC East insider this year, which means he's responsible for 4 teams. Hey, good job out of Ralph. He got 3 out of the 4 playoff teams in, right? They're all still standing. After eliminations last week, we still got 3 out of 4 in the NFC East. So we're going to get both an in-town and out-of-town perspective of this weekend's matchup. Ralph Vecchiano of Fox Sports joins us next here on Birds 360.